Hey guys, Dave with First Place Auto Parts. You know, back in the 60s and 70s, there were a lot of cool cars. Part of what made those cars cool were the hoods and the hood scoops that came on those cars. And in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a trip down memory lane and look at some of those most memorable hood scoops. Look, a flat hood covers up the engine, it serves a purpose, but a hood scoop in a lot of times, in a lot of those cases, those early American muscle cars, not only did they look cool, but they added performance as well. So in today's video, guys, make sure you stay tuned. We're gonna go tripping down memory lane, look at some of the most iconic hood scoops that not only made the car what they were and visually, but they also added performance. So stay tuned, because today we're talking hood scoops. Hey guys, if you like today's video, please consider subscribing to the First Place Auto Parts YouTube channel. We're going to continually be adding new videos every week where we show you how to put new parts on. We take a look at the latest parts that are available, and we go to some pretty cool car guy stuff I'm pretty sure you're going to want to see. Hood scoops, as they were designed back in the 50s, 60s, and even into the 70s, had a lot of different purposes. Most of the time it was to get cold air into that carburetor to help produce the most amount of power that that engine could produce, but sometimes it was also for hood clearance, especially in the case of the very first hood scoop that we're going to take a look at, which was the 1967 C2 Corvette. When they shoehorned the big block Chevrolet into that thing, they had a problem. The flat hood that came on the small block version of the Corvette would not clear the big block. As a matter of fact, the top of that air cleaner stood about 2.5 inches above the flat hood, so GM designers had to do something, and what they designed was nothing short of what we know today as the Stinger hood. And it was specifically used on the 67 big block Chevrolet Corvette. Now, the Stinger hood made by GM is what we would call an intermediate size hood scoop. It's not overly tall, but it accentuated the really neat curves of the C2 Corvette, especially in 1967. Look, the big block's a big motor, it's tall. It's much taller than the small block Chevrolet, and they had to go with the theme of the car. They couldn't design a hood scoop that otherwise stood out. It had to flow with the body lines, and the Stinger hood did just that. It was a functional hood scoop. It was open at the front and not only allowed cold air in, but also allowed that hot air that was trapped under the hood to get out. My favorite version of it was in two-tone when, say, we had a black car and they had a red stripe on that Stinger scoop. Man, that thing just looked lethal, and you saw that Stinger scoop recreated in the aftermarket, and you saw that thing show up on a lot of different cars. My favorite, again, is the black and the red combination, but it allowed GM to fit that big fat block Chevrolet under the hood of the C2 Corvette, and the rest is history, as they say. The 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner with his 440 six-pack was a unique car in a lot of different ways. It personified muscle in the early 70s. Look, this thing had a pistol grip shifter. A 440 six-pack had two 3-barrel carburetors perched on top of its intake manifold, and it also had the hood scoop, which was known as the air grabber. Look, the air grabber hood scoop was stealth before we even knew what the word stealth meant back then. Now, under normal conditions, the air grabber hood scoop stayed closed, but what was neat about this thing is that when the driver wanted all the ponies that 440 could deliver, he simply reached under the dash, pulled the lever, and the air grabber hood scoop popped up. Look, not only did the air grabber hood scoop give a performance increase, but it also gave a psychological increase, or I should say a psychological decrease, to the guy who was lined up next to him, because what he saw on the side of that hood scoop was a shark with the word air grabber on it, and he knew that the car was serious. And much like the air grabber with the Mopar, not all hood scoops are meant to be seen all the time, and that's the case with Buick. Look, Buick was known as a luxury car manufacturer back in the day, but they also had a performance image to uphold as part of General Motors' line of vehicles. What they had with the Buick Gs Stage 1 was they had built in actual hood scoops that fit almost flush with the hood. They barely sat above it with two vents, but what those two vents did was funnel large amounts of cold air directly into the big beat of a 455 Oldsmobile engine that lied beneath the hood. And here's where it starts to get a little fun, because the reality is not all scoops are meant to be stealth. Some of them are meant to be in your face. And some of them, if they're not in your face enough, they'll actually actually move with every beat and grind of the engine in the case of the shaker scoop. Look, a shaker scoop, there's a hole in the hood, and the shaker itself mounts to the airbox, which is mounted to the engine. Every time that engine moves, that shaker scoop moves as well. So in the driver's seat, if you were somehow able to overlook the actual shaker scoop facing in the hood and the big openings on the backside of that thing, the thing was shaking with the engine, and every time you banged the gear, that shaker scoop would move over to the right side of the engine, and then when you let off the gas, it'd come back to center. Perhaps none of the shaker scoops were as identifiable, and this is the reason that they had such a long run as they actually worked, were the shaker scoops that came installed on the second generation Pontiac Trans Ams. And perhaps the most popular hood scoop of all time is the Cowl induction hood, found originally on the first generation Camaros that sported the 302 or the Z28 package. Look, the Cowl induction hood today can be found in anything from a car to a pickup truck, especially the classic varieties. But how do you make a Cowl induction hood even better? Is you add a vacuum operated air door at the back of the hood where it can pick up the high pressure air at the base of the windshield, and you put Cowl induction on the side of it. Look, this hood came original equipment, the Cowl induction hood with the air door on the back on the all concrete 1970s Chevelle. It came with the LS6 454 big block. And finally, perhaps the most outrageous hood bubble ever put on a car came on the 1964 Ford Thunderbolt. Look, Ford was going all out and going into the racing side of things, and when they shoehorned a big FV 427 engine into a fairly small chassis, they had problems with the engine being too tall to fit under any kind of a flat hood. So what they came up with was a Thunderbolt hood scoop, and really with its large teardrop shape and the windows in the back side of that hood, what it did was it allowed them to get not only trapped air, but also trapped hot air out from underneath that hood, and it gave them the clearance they needed for that big bread box air cleaner that sat on top of the two 4-barrel carburetors. Look, I like this hood scoop so much that I grafted one onto the hood of my 56 Chevrolet because it has a tilt front end and I wanted to run a tunnel ram. The neat thing about the Thunderbolt hood scoop, and it is most definitely in your face, like this thing is not stealth at all. You can get them in various heights, but typically they're 2 to 3 inches tall, is that they give you a lot of underhood clearance. You find them on a lot of cars that are either running blowers or tunnel rams because it gives you the clearance above the engine that you can actually close the hood. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's trip down memory lane when it came to muscle car hood scoops. Look, this is not a complete list. There's a ton of other neat hood scoops like the 70-72 Oldsmobile 442 W25 hood, or the 70 Boss Mustang with the 429 motor in it. Those were cool hood scoops as well. But the reality is the hood scoops I mentioned today were either the innovators or were unique in their own way. Either way, hood scoops are something that kind of tickle something inside of us as a car guy. They're identifiable as not only looking really cool, but they add performance as well. Guys, if you ever need products to either restore or make your car go faster, whether it's an American muscle car or truck, early or late model, we've got what you need at First Place Auto Parts. Super easy to use and always open. Simply go to fbautoparts.com, and there you will find literally everything you need to make your car go faster, stop harder, or look better. Guys, I appreciate you watching this video. Till next time, keep the hammer down and keep it between the guardrails.